Well, good morning, everyone, from sunny Southern California. We appreciate you joining this webinar today. We have people connecting from all across the globe, so this is exciting. My name is Mike King, and I have the opportunity to manage the emergency call-taking industry here at ESRI. And today we have listened to some of your requests and tried to develop a webinar that would accomplish two things. One, show and share some of the great things that are happening in our research and development within ESRI, and then also share one of our best-of-class examples of how our partners are using some of this technology. I'd like to start by introducing the ESRI team that is joining me on this call. First and foremost, of course, I want to thank Brenda Martinez, who has managed the logistics of the call. We have Britt Bromley, who manages our partner pool. ESRI has thousands of business partners. Britt manages a specific focus within the 911 or emergency call-taking industry, and will be helping us with some of the movement of questions. So please feel free to type in your questions throughout the webinar. We'll try to take an advantage of each break to maybe answer a few questions, and then many of those we'll answer on the question panel on your screen. And I'd also like to introduce Chris Delaney, who will be our first presenter. Chris is our law enforcement and emergency call-taking technical lead, and one of the nice things about our team here at ESRI is everyone that is working in this environment has been able to come to this, many with public safety backgrounds, so we're really appreciative of that. Our agenda will be as it's outlined. We're going to first hear from Chris Delaney, who's going to share some of our tools and templates that have been developed and how you can better understand how they fit within the entire ESRI ArcGIS platform. Chris will be sharing some cutting-edge thoughts and also things that will, I hope, be very beneficial to you in your individual roles. We've then invited for the last portion of the webinar, Chris Harvey, who is a product manager, and Jim Tochterman, who's a vice president in the research and development segment of Bradshaw Consulting, one of our strategic partners, to take some time and share one of their creations on the ArcGIS platform, a tool called PSAP Monitor. So with that, we will have some follow-up at the conclusion, but we again appreciate all of you taking time today to join us, and my personal appreciation to those who are participating and presenting the content today. We hope you'll enjoy it. If we could, let's turn the time over now to Chris Delaney.
Thanks, Mike, and good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. As Mike mentioned, my name is Chris Delaney. I'm a former crime analyst for the Rochester, New York Police Department and the technical lead for PSAP and for law enforcement organizations at ESRI. The first place that I want to start, before we start to talk about some of the capabilities that ESRI can provide to enhance the mission of PSAPs, is to just start a little bit by talking about the work that that dispatch centers do and the core objectives that agencies like yours have. Even though we all have different policies and practices, most PSAPs generally have a core set of objectives that are pretty similar, and that is to ensure that they're providing high quality and efficient service to citizens, as well as meeting the needs of the public safety partners, the first responders that they're serving, that they are ensuring a 24/7 reliability for those partners and for citizens, that the staff who are a part of the public safety answering point are trained to the highest standard, and at the same time that that organization is running as lean as possible and costs are being controlled. And so for all of those high-level agency objectives, there's obviously a number of people in any organization that support those objectives in their specific role. Whether it is from a location perspective, your GIS manager in your agency who is responsible for managing things like your authoritative address information, or for managing jurisdictional boundary layer information that help you know who to dispatch to and when. Your public information folks who are handling requests from citizens or from the media about data associated with call information, or that are responsible for alerting the public when it comes to threats or dangerous conditions or emergency situations that the public need to be aware of. Of course, the heart of any dispatch center is its operations. The folks who are responsible for providing those high-quality call-taking and dispatching services, and the supervisors who are ultimately responsible for managing the workload and resources for those folks in coordinating with the various first responders out in the field. And then from an administrative perspective, the managers that run the organization and have a responsibility to administer the organization in as effective and a lean way as possible, who have to do the performance reports, do the annual reports, do the budget documents, everything that makes the organization go. So for each of those different roles in a PSAP, you know, you're doing certain tasks and have certain workflows that are unique to your role, but ultimately everyone is contributing in their role up to the organizational objectives as a whole. And one thing we know about location data generally at PSAPs as it relates to decision making is it's critical. Everything we do in a PSAP has some kind of location context to it. And all of that information is organized inside the CAD to support the core function of the organization, and that is for call taking and dispatch. There's so much location data that we work with. Obviously, we think about the addressable locations that we dispatch to, the actual calls themselves, but more and more a variety of different sources. Positioning through AVL for the positions of all first responder vehicles, imagery information, locations where there's premise warnings or officer safety checks, locations of CCTV cameras, whether they're publicly owned cameras or whether it's privately owned cameras by citizens or businesses. And right now a lot of that data is organized to support the core workflow of a PSAP. That is, it is inputted into the CAD system where it resides and it is consumed. But not every single workflow and every single task in a PSAP involves the use of the CAD. That data may need to exist in other forms and in other modes to support the work that you do. And so as we talk to customers who are utilizing and thinking about their use of location data and trying to be smarter and leaner with their organization, we often hear kind of two key challenges. That organizations are concerned that they're not effectively leveraging the location data that everyone in the organization needs because it's not easily accessible outside of CAD in the form that the employees of the CAD of the dispatch center need it, and that secondly, that their staff need maps and location data outside of the CAD to make smarter and efficient decisions, but they don't have easy access to those resources, and as a result, that location data is not being as effectively leveraged in the agency to ensure that everyone has the decision tools that they need. And so when we think about maybe where we'd like to be in the future, as it relates to location, a PSAP of the future will be able to leverage that location data the way that they need it for any user in the agency. So whether it's the CCTV data or the LPR data or imagery or premise warnings, all of that data is organized into a one-stop shop that enables all of the users in the PSAP to have access to that data, to be able to map it and perform analysis so that all of the different roles in a PSAP are properly supported with mapping capabilities and technology that serves their particular needs in their particular role. So that's been a big focus of what we've been doing at ESRI. How do we leverage the GIS capabilities that we have to enable organizations to use their data more effectively to make decisions across their entire organization? And so when we think about the PSAP of the future as it relates to our technology, there's kind of three core concepts that work together that enable that vision. And the first is the idea that we want to connect to your authoritative data sets. In the case of PSAPs, that's generally your CAD data, but may also involve a number of additional data sources that you need that are external to your organization. Maybe data sets from other agencies in your jurisdiction, maybe public data sets like real-time traffic or weather. Being able to have authoritative data services that reflect the core data sets that you need to make decisions in the organization. And then having that information organized in a single point for everyone to use, and we call those portals. So having a map portal for your PSAP, and this map portal enables you to get access to those data services, get access to maps and mapping applications that you need. You can share them and collaborate with other personnel inside of your organization. You can make your own maps, and that portal is properly secured so that only people who have been provisioned to access certain data sets or maps are able to see and use the data that they've been provisioned. And so by having that one-stop shop for all location data and maps for your organization, you're then able to start to build mapping applications that support each individual need of each individual user in their specific role, whether it's the GIS manager or the operations supervisor or the PIO or whether it is an administrator. The ArcGIS platform lets you configure applications off of the data and the maps that exist inside of your portal to meet your unique user needs across all of those different types of roles that might exist in your organization. So that's really the key to enabling organizations to leverage data more effectively. Organizing in a way that makes it secure but accessible, and then delivering it into apps that can be configured easily to support the needs of any user in the organization. That's how we get to the PSAP of the future. And a core principle around this kind of vision of the ArcGIS platform is configurable apps. ESRI's worked really hard to ensure that regardless of the industry that you're in, that our technology can support a way that you need to use location data and mapping information through applications that don't need to be built from the ground up custom, that can be configured and reused as your needs and missions change over time. So our philosophy with the ArcGIS platform is really configure first from our off-the-shelf set of apps that come with your ArcGIS platform, or if you have very specific needs, and certainly PSAPs do, then there are custom solutions that can fit on top of the ArcGIS platform that leverage the investment in data organization that the ArcGIS platform provides, such as business partner solutions like what you'll see today from Bradshaw. That's very exciting and very tailored to the needs of dispatch organizations, or using the developer tools that ESRI provides. You have the ability to build your own custom apps using our set of APIs and SDKs for all of the common web and mobile and desktop languages that are currently utilized. So when it comes to these configurable apps, we just have so many. There's 40 plus configurable apps that currently come with the ArcGIS platform for every kind of device, whether it's mobile device on iOS or Android or Windows Phone, for Windows Desktop, or web-based configurable apps in HTML5 and JavaScript, so modern responsive web apps. If you're not familiar with these apps, I encourage you to check out arcgis.com/features/apps, and it's got a complete rundown of all of the different app capabilities that we have. And this is the page right here. We organize our apps in a variety of different ways. Apps for the field, so these are apps that you can utilize on a mobile device to collect data in the field, or monitor operations using our operations dashboard, or collect form-based data using Survey 123. We also have apps that support the work that you do in the office, whether you're a desktop professional and you use our tools like ArcGIS Pro or ArcMap to do professional GIS work, or you need simple tools for map visualization in Office, map visualization and analysis, like our ArcGIS Online Map Viewer or our add-in for ArcGIS Maps for Office. Or if you have the need to build apps to supporting community engagement through things like our story map templates that help you combine text, video, images, and dynamic maps to tell compelling stories about the work that your agency does, or the ability to spin up an open data portal. Or if you have the need to build your own semi-custom app, we have a variety of tools for that as well. A number of different app builder capabilities, building your own semi-custom web apps with our web app builder for ArcGIS that enables you to pick from about 30 different widgets to build your own web app configuration, or to be able to use configurable web templates that come ready to use, simply a little bit of configuration on your part, and they're ready to deploy, or to be able to build your own native apps for iOS, Android, and have them submitted for approval right into the App Store or to Google Play. So there's a lot of apps that the ArcGIS platform supports. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at these, I encourage you to take a look at this. Take a look at this website. I can't cover all that information in one single webinar. So if you get a chance, take a look. There's a lot of really exciting stuff there. What I really want to do for the rest of my time before I hand it over to Bradshaw is show you some examples of these configurable apps in action that support some of the real-time decision support and analytics needs that exist inside PSAP. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you a couple of configurations of one of our apps called Operations Dashboard. This supports the creation of real-time dashboards for monitoring calls for service, or AVL. I'm also going to show how that can integrate with one of our web app templates for collecting data from citizens that we call GeoForm, and how that information that's received from citizens can be displayed in real time in your operations dashboard. I'm also going to show a little bit of a web app builder configuration that shows how you can build public-facing mapping apps for your calls for service data that can help engage citizens and reduce FOIL requests that you may be getting from citizens, and show you a few examples of our web app templates called story maps to illustrate how they can be utilized to support presentation needs that you may have in your organization. So things like supporting shift briefings or presentations out to the public. So the first place I want to start is with our operations dashboard. What you're seeing on your screen now is an example of an operations dashboard that's been configured. This isn't real data, this is example data. And as you can see, there's a map at the center of this dashboard with a number of widgets configured around the map. Each one of these widgets is completely configurable, and currently on the map I have one layer, a calls for service layer that's live. You can see all of the widgets moving in real time as new calls come in. The color of the call reflects the status of the call, so calls in red are waiting to be dispatched, yellow are calls that have been dispatched and officers are en route, and green are officers are on scene and are working the call. I can see that the number of calls waiting, dispatch, and on scene are changing in real time as well. I'm also able to see a list of the current calls as they come in, and I can see additional information when I click on that list. I can see a breakdown of call status down here in a widget, and I also have some overall data on top 5 call types for the day and top 5 call locations in the event that there was some kind of repeat location issues that were occurring. But I've got a variety of other data sets that are part of this dashboard that can help improve my overall situational awareness. First is the ability to bring in some data for non-emergency tips from citizens. You'll see a list right over here. I can see I have 5 new citizen tips for the day. I can review each one of those individual tips. I can click on any single one. So if I'm supporting a call, I'm able to see that maybe there's a tip that's come in recently that could be relevant to what's going on in that situation. I'm able to have that situational awareness. And as I zoom in, not only am I able to see that the citizen information, I'm also able to incorporate private camera information so that I'm able to see if I've got URL-based camera feeds, I can see the camera and what it's currently showing at that location. In addition, I also have the ability to incorporate other layers. So let's say maybe the police department or the fire department or the emergency management agency maintains a live list of road closures. I'm able to see those road closures in real time. So if I zoom over here, I'm able to see that I currently have a road closure on Frankfurt from East Allegheny to East Ann. I've got 2 roadblocks set up, and I have a road detour here. This may have implications during a dispatch situation, or if there's an emergency or crisis situation that occurs in and around that area. I have a live, up-to-date feed of authoritative information on roadblock and road closure data that I can incorporate into my map. So this dashboard is doing more than just displaying calls for service that are active in my jurisdiction. It's enabling me to bring in other data sources that are relevant to my situational awareness from a call-taking, dispatch, and management perspective of operations. So not only can I see citizen tips and roadblocks and road closures, but I could also bring in things like a live real-time weather traffic service. So I can view the impact that this road closure is having around surrounding streets because that's important situational context for me as well. I also have the ability to bring in things like real-time weather feeds. So if I was monitoring call activity during a winter storm and I wanted to be aware of what's happening where with regard to snowfall precipitation, I'd have the ability to incorporate that into my dashboard as well. One of the features that I wanted to show in particular on this dashboard is the ability to incorporate data in a real-time way. So to do that, the first thing that I want to show you is what a typical ArcGIS organization looks like, whether it's online with our ArcGIS online service or whether it's on your premise using our ArcGIS Enterprise. In order to get into that organizational portal, I first sign in with my named user account. So I'm able to sign in with my username and password. And these also can be federated to your Active Directory. So if you want to be able to have this pass seamlessly from your security environment in your organization to your mapping portal, you're able to do that. And I'm able to see a portal for my organization that has a variety of different things. I'm able to see security groups that I'm part of. So I can see information like different groups that have maps and data that I've been provisioned because of my individual role. So maybe as the administrator, I'm able to see operations and I'm able to see what the GIS manager does in the public information group. But maybe if you were working in operations, you wouldn't have access to the items that the GIS manager have access to. This is a way in which we control security in these portals. Named users are shared into a group, are permitted access to a group, and then items such as layers, maps, and apps are shared into a group for people to use. And I also have the ability to own my own content, so my own maps and layers that I can choose to share into a group for people to use. So things like applications and layers and documents. And one of those that I've put together is a tip form for citizens. So this is something that I could build using our GeoForm configurable web app template, and then I could share it out to the public so that they could report non-emergency tips that I can consume as part of any map in my organization, and in particular the dashboard that I just showed you. So I can add some information on the tip location, describe the tip, add some contact information. If I have a video or image or document I want to attach, I can do that. And then I can also really specify the location, and this starts to become useful when if you don't have a specific address, you have an incident that occurred in a park somewhere, your user of this app is able to specify exactly where that tip has occurred. And then they could submit that tip, and it is immediately accessible to any map in your organization that is using it. And in our case, with our dashboard, I'm able to see this tip show up immediately. I could see it showed up over here in my list, and I can see the tip show up right here on my map. So this makes it possible for any feed of data to be accessible from any app where you're collecting data and being able to push it into your dashboard. Another example of an app that I wanted to show you was for managing public calls for service data. So I have in my items here a calls for service public map that I've built using Web App Builder, and I've configured a number of widgets using Web App Builder to enable me to support some of the common functionality that a citizen might like in order to be able to ask questions about recent calls for service data that has occurred. So this is this app uses some data from Johns Creek, Georgia, that Johns Creek, Georgia has provided using their ArcGIS open data site. So this is publicly accessible data that Johns Creek has made available. I'm able to do a number of different things with this particular app. I'm able to do things like filter by call group type, so I can see all of the different call groups, and I can do filtering. I have the ability to filter by date. I have the ability to filter by the specific call type. And in addition to these filtering capabilities to reduce what I'm actually able to see on the map, I also have a number of different capabilities to ask questions about this data. So I can, for example, select a point on this map, and I'm able to, hold on just a second, I'm able to take a look at this traffic stop, and let's say I'm interested in incidents that have occurred around this particular call. I can select this call and set it as a location for a Get Calls for Service Data widget that you just saw activate up here in the corner, and that widget is going to enable me to buffer around the location of this call and return recent call activity that's occurred. I'm having a little bit of internet latency problems, but it'll show up in just a second. So here I can see that I've had I've calls for service that have happened around this area within a 500-foot buffer in the last 3 years, data for 2014, 2015, 2016. And I can download this data right to my desktop. So this is a really good way in which you can put out calls for service data out to the public. And if someone has a question about a particular location and call activity around a location, you can utilize a configuration of Web App Builder like this to enable them to go select their location and download data right into a spreadsheet about that location that might be relevant for them, thus reducing FOIL request burden on your public information staff. Another example of capability that the ArcGIS platform provides for some of the use cases and configuration needs in PSAPs is around being able to present data. And so maybe this is a need that administrators or supervisors might have, to be able to organize and present data both internally, perhaps in the form of shift briefings, or externally in the form of presentations to the public or presentations to elected officials during budget season or associated with other KPIs. Now these are a couple of law enforcement examples, but they both utilize our story map web templates that I mentioned before, and they really illustrate how you can dynamically share a presentation via a browser app that enables people to interact with the presentation in a much more dynamic way. So this is an example of a shift briefing for law enforcement agency, where here we picked up some video that we put on YouTube about a commercial burglary and the suspects. We've got some information on current theft from vehicle problem areas that we're targeting. There's been some recent gang activity, and we were able to share some information on recent assaults in known gang member territories and the home locations of those gang members. We've got some targeted patrol areas we want officers to be aware of, and we've got some felony warrants that we want officers to be prioritizing in their downtime. And then there's also an event occurring today that we can share the operational plan for the event with officers as part of the daily briefing. So you could utilize this story map template to present this data to the officers during their normal shift roll call, but because it's a browser-based app, they're able to take this and access it wherever they are to refer back to that information. So that's one of the examples and applications of a story map template and why it might matter to be able to more effectively share information internally in your organization. And when it comes to sharing data externally, this isn't an example. This is something that the Philadelphia Police Department actually put together to help explain their approach towards, their philosophy towards a modern approach to policing. So this is a lot of the stuff that I've shown you so far are examples that use Philadelphia data. This is their actual, this is a story map that they've actually put together. And they're able to provide a number of different looks at data that reflect their approach to modern policing. And so it's sharing data openly, and so access to their open data portal. And they focus on violent crime. So this is a breakdown of violent crime by census tract, so you can see the areas that they're going to be focusing on. And then they also incorporate things like helping you to understand when they police a particular area at a higher volume of intensity, that is correlated with the fact that that area is violent. So you're able to see here on the left-hand side violent crime by census tract, and on the right-hand side car and pedestrian stops by census tract. And you're able to use a swipe map to compare and contrast. And so this, I won't show you the whole thing because it starts to get a little involved, but I hope you get the idea that these story map templates become a really powerful way in which you can aggregate a lot of information quite easily to communicate powerful stories that involve maps and location data. And that can be useful both for internal briefings and for external briefings. So I hope through a few of those configurable app examples, you got a flavor of how these apps can support various user needs inside your organization, whether it's to support operations with a real-time dashboard, whether it is to engage citizens through building public-facing forms for data collection or a calls for service mapping app, or whether it's through things like story map templates for briefings and public reports. And one last thing that I didn't mention, but is another key part of it. If you've not been to our solutions.arcgis.com site, we have a variety of public safety specific templates that support a lot of core workflows. So for your GIS managers, the ability to more effectively manage address information or boundary information, we have templates for ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro that support your ability to more effectively manage that kind of information so that your GIS managers it's making it easier for them to do their core functions to support the CAD. Before I turn it over to Chris and Jim from Bradshaw, I just wanted to note a couple of recent updates to how we do licensing at ESRI for public safety. As Mike mentioned, all the guys on the public safety team at ESRI are all former public safety, and we're always trying to do our best to ensure that our friends and colleagues in the public safety world are getting the best deal possible from us. And to that end, we've got a couple of things that you may not be aware of that are special offers for public safety. And the first is our small public safety enterprise agreements. These are basically giving you unlimited access to ArcGIS desktop software and to our server software. It gives you an ArcGIS online organization with named users. So any of the things that you just saw, you get with one of these enterprise agreements. And regardless of how you want to deploy it, if you want to deploy it in the cloud and ArcGIS Online, you can do that. If you want to deploy it on-premise using our server software with ArcGIS Enterprise, you can do that. And most significantly, these small public safety enterprise agreements are priced extremely competitively and serve public safety agencies whose population is up to 250,000. So we have a tiered system depending on the size of the population that your agency serves, and these packages start at $15,000 a year. So it can be a very compelling price point for folks who are already maybe have a couple of ArcGIS desktop licenses, maybe have a server license. There's a lot of capability here that enable you to more effectively take advantage of the WebGIS pattern that I've just illustrated using this enterprise agreement program. Additionally, another recent licensing improvement that we've made is a public safety specific optional program for ArcGIS Online named users. For our ArcGIS platform, you access it through named users for your organization. So everyone has a unique identity, and that enables you to more effectively control security inside that organization. So as your need to have people in your organization access your mapping portal grow, you need more named users. Well, for public safety organizations, we appreciate that the reality of most public safety organizations involve shift work. So our Public Safety ArcGIS Online Named User Program enables you to have 3 times the number of standard named users provided in any package that you have. So this reflects shift work. So over the course of a day, where you may have one role, maybe a dispatcher, there's 3 people who fill that role. And so we will triple the number of standard name users on whatever it is that you're buying. And additionally, you've got the ability to have unlimited users if you have a emergency activation, like an activation of your EOC, or if you're doing some kind of simulated exercise. This capability comes as part of any of our small public safety enterprise agreement programs, or as part of the sister program for small government agencies generally, or if you're just buying ArcGIS Online by itself, if you're not using this enterprise agreement program, you can buy this as an additional add-on as well. So those are just a couple of updates around public safety licensing I wanted to make you aware of. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jim and Chris from Bradshaw, who are going to show you what a custom solution based upon the ArcGIS platform for PSAPs looks like. It's really exciting and very cool stuff. Chris, Jim, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris. As Chris was just saying, my name is Chris Harvey. I'm the product manager of several of our public safety applications we have here at BCS, Bradshaw Consulting, and I'm joined today with Jim Tochterman, who's our VP of Research and Development. For those of you who may not be familiar with BCS, we're an ESRI Gold partner. I've actually been in the partner program since 1998, so we're nearing 20 years, I guess, in participation there. As of course you can tell by our name, we actually started as a GIS consulting company, but you know, through the life of our company, we've developed a very, very strong public safety focus. We're now at a point that we probably 90% of our offerings are related to public safety, especially in analysis, display, and optimization of those services. Again, if you're not very familiar with us, we're probably best known for our MARVLIS platform, which again started about 15, 16 years ago as a GIS-based routing and optimization application for EMS and fire. But of course, as the ESRI platform, which Chris did a good job of highlighting just a little bit ago, as that continues to grow and develop, and of course, our platform continues to grow and develop as well. So what we're going to show here today is just kind of the latest offering in the MARVLIS family, and of course, time allowing, we'll do a small demo of the addresser first aid kit, and then talk a little bit about the parent namesake application, for enterprise address management, the addresser. I know we're getting close on time here, so we'll try to speed through that. But the long story short is that as the ESRI application or the ESRI platform continues to grow, of course, then that presents all kinds of new entry points and ways to be able to consume and share and collaborate in data. As that has continued to grow, of course, MARVLIS is becoming an enterprise GIS platform for planning, analysis, management, deployment of tactical real-time public safety resources. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Jim to show you a little bit about our latest offering in the MARVLIS family. Jim?
Thank you, Chris. In leveraging the ArcGIS platform, the PSAP Operations Monitor integrates into your complete enterprise solution. It can be either deployed into ArcGIS Online, as shown here, or on-premise with your own ArcGIS Enterprise. It's up to the organization to decide which deployment model best suits their needs and their mission. PSAP Operations Monitor, it's designed to quickly deploy into an organization's architecture and be easily configured to utilize that investment in named users and web maps. That enables it to grow with the needs as times or even situations change. The PSAP Operations Monitor is also capable of consuming many kinds of data layers and real-time feeds, similar to what Chris Delaney was speaking in regards to, available from internal and external sources and agencies, anything from real-time traffic conditions to DOT road closures to weather. As shown in the bottom of the slide, PSAP Operations Monitor, it's the visualization and analytical component of our offering, and it's geared toward those in the operations and administration sections of your PSAP. It sits on top of MARVLIS Server, and MARVLIS Server is providing an out-of-the-box solution that acts as a communications hub to bridge that gap between your organization's CAD system and its ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online organization. MARVLIS Server supports many Tier 1 and Tier 2 CAD systems currently on the market today, such as Tritech, Enroute, Zoll, Intergraph, or even Spillman, as well as a variety of AVL systems, and they can be running on wireless technologies such as cellular air cards or Motorola P25 radios. If a CAD or AVL system is not supported, it can be added via a custom integration, and we've done that with many smaller name CAD systems as well as many homegrown CAD systems. Marvelous Server can also be leveraged by other ESRI applications that Chris Delaney was speaking about. Those can be done through GeoEvent Server and through your own custom application development using tools such as the ArcGIS API for JavaScript. So with that, let's take a look at the Operations Monitor. To start off with, I'm connected here to our ArcGIS Online. Connected to our ArcGIS Online organizational account. In our portal, we have PSAP Operations Monitor configured and running in ArcGIS Online, leveraging named user identity. As with most ArcGIS Online applications, PSAP Operations Manager is a lightweight HTML5 application. It can be run on a variety of platforms. There's no installation required. This could be in a browser on a workstation running in a dispatch center, on a laptop by a coordinator who had to move to a remote location, or even by a tablet with a incident commander in the field. PSAP Operations Monitor not only can be run with ArcGIS Online again, but also on premises with ArcGIS Enterprise or even in the cloud with ArcGIS Enterprise. It's up to the organization again to decide which model best fits their deployment purposes. ArcGIS platform, regardless of the architecture, it establishes that framework that we can grow upon with other public safety applications from either BCS or ESRI as an organization needs grow. So when launching the application, the user is going to be requested to approve the application using their named user identity. Once the application is approved, a second dialog box may appear prompting the user to log in to Marvelous Server. We do that because Marvelous Server is providing the AVL and CAD incident data through a real-time data stream. That login sets a filter on the data being streamed to the user so they only see what they only have access to. For example, an organization in a local government, that means police department users only see law enforcement information. Fire department users only see that fire department information. And PSAP commanders would be able to see everything in their common operational picture. It also enables those with interagency agreements to share data, but also filter what is enabled to be viewed by each of those agencies accordingly. So the PSAP Operations Monitor we have here is comprised of a map display showing our vehicle and incident locations from the CAD system, and it has a collapsible real-time operational analytics section over here on the left that's providing KPIs and a series of gauges graphically showing current dispatch performance by priority. The first button on the toolbar sets the display to show us the specifics for the priority call by district. In this first section at the top, this is the current number of calls in each district color-coded by their priority. In the second section, we see by percentage our units on call versus units unavailable. This can give us an initial glimpse on how taxed my fleet currently is or is becoming. The data in these two sections is represented in the gauges at the bottom of the screen or in the mini gauges on the far left side. They give us a easy to see visual indicator by operational status by priority, showing current demand and that unmet demand. The third and final section contains a chart depicting the real-time average response time by priority. The chart reflects in those columns the past year, the past month, and the past day. The color around each time and the arrows reflect the trend, either an increase or a decrease. The red for an increased response time and a green for a decrease. For each of those priorities, you have a priority by past day averaged over the last 7 days, past month averaged over the last 4 weeks, and the past year averaged over the last 12 months. This is also viewable by each configured priority or for all priorities. So I could look at priority 1s, priority 2s, or all of them. Our years of experience working with many customers have helped us establish these KPIs and shape this into a valuable mission-critical decision support tool. The second button on the toolbar shows us our unit monitor. This gives us a card view of all of our vehicles that are currently deployed in the field, and it's color-coded according to status, such as available, en route, at post, or at scene. These statuses are driven by what is configured by an organization's CAD system and will vary from organization to organization. This view is also sortable by district, by unit, and by current status. A user can select a card to zoom to that vehicle, and the map view will follow that on the screen as it moves to its destination. If a vehicle is assigned to an incident, there's a red line connecting the incident to the vehicle for a visual indicator. If I click that again, it will turn off the map follow me, and the map will stay idle. The third button is our calls monitor. It shows us all the calls that are currently being serviced. They are color-coded and grouped by priority, giving us a description of the event. The data available here is designed to be as detailed as the data coming from the CAD system will allow. It's sortable this time by priority, by district, and by time received. And the user can also click on any one of those incidents to be zoomed to that location on the map, and the panel display is switched over to show any CAD notes and any other details from the CAD system. The fourth button on the toolbar brings up the layers control. This allows the user to turn on and off any of the configured overlay layers and see a legend for the layers displayed on the map. So here I want to be able to change my view from districts to be able to see my sectors. And if I expand my layer, I'll actually get a legend to represent which ones of those polygons are which on the map. The data contained here is configurable by the organization. It can consist of data from their ArcGIS Online organizational account or on their on-premises ArcGIS enterprise deployment. The fifth and final button on the toolbar brings up our feeds control. This allows the user to turn on and off any configured real-time or dynamic data feeds. This can be our items such as our current traffic conditions or our weather radar or traffic cameras. The data here can be from both internal and external data sources, as well as from ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Enterprise, GORSS, KML, or even crowdsourced data from companies such as Waze. The PSAP Operations Monitor also contains a locator bar in the upper right-hand corner of the display. It's capable of connecting to multiple locator services such as the ArcGIS Online Geocoding Service and custom locators published by an organization using defined data sources. This helps the user to quickly jump to any specific area on the map. It can be configured also to point to different custom locators as well as those created by your own organization and other organizations as well. In this case, this one has been configured to allow the users to be able to search by street address or intersection, by land subdivisions, patrol zones, and even landmarks. So my first one here, I'm going to zoom in to 467 Hay Street, and it takes us down here into the map. Mike King with ESRI is also working on standing up a national PSAP boundary layer, and this locator service could also consume that sometime in the future. Finally, like any good mapping application, there is a tool to allow the user to switch between various underlying base maps available in order to suit their own need. This can be especially beneficial to those organizations that have limited data resources or even add value to those with an established GIS. An organization can also add their own custom base maps to this gallery, giving them a increased operational awareness with their own detailed data. Changing the base map on the fly doesn't affect the map overlays or the CAD AVL data that's on the map within the application. Just puts them in a different context. For example, if a dispatcher needs to have more detailed information in an urban area, they might switch to an imagery base map, whereas an incident commander in the field may, doing a search and rescue, may decide they want the elevation, hillside, and terrain of that topographic map. This allows the users on the system to all share the same data, just in a slight different or more mission-appropriate context. In summary, building off the ESRI paradigm of configure first and customize second, the PSAP Operations Monitor, as well as other members of the Marvelous Forecast LE family, allows an organization to easily and quickly connect disparate or stovepipe systems and bridge that gap between those systems and the ESRI platform, and then add industry-leading analytics to help organizations meet their goals and missions successfully. In simpler terms, deploy, configure, and analyze. With that, I will turn that back over to Chris.
All right, thank you, Jim. Let's see here. All right, and I know we're running a little bit long here session, so I'll try to speed up here through this last part. Basically, what I wanted to show you here is kind of a diagnostic utility that we've created, which is I mentioned the parent application, the addresser. This is the QAQC utility out of that enterprise application for address management that we offer for a very low cost. I'm sure most folks who are on this call are at least marginally aware. Of course, national standards are being developed for the NG 911 system, so obviously those standards are continuing to evolve at the national level. If you're not aware, I think it was mid-December, they released the NENA standard for basically the NG 911 GIS data model that's out for public review right now, I think through the end of February. So as those sites continue to change, basically the long story short of that is that GIS data is going to continue to take on an increasingly critical role in the deployment of public safety resources. Now, I mentioned as a company also about 90% of our offerings are all public safety oriented as well, so the need for reliable and accurate validated addressing data is important, not only to know how to get the right resources to the right place at the right time, but even as doing post-analysis, crime analysis, things like that, being able to look at the area. So this utility here is basically a standalone utility. You configure, at least in this version of the software right now, you take copies of your streets and your address point data, put those into a file geodatabase. Of course, you wire that up and then do your field matching. Obviously required field names are shown in red. The ones down here on the right are fields that we require, and even though you may already track those in your system, we ask that you set up a separate field for these that says an individual segment ID, which side of the street that falls on. This is actually an individual a requirement here that is software based, and then of course the whole address and the full street name field as well. After wiring everything up, you come into the clean process, and this will actually run through, trim all of your string fields. It'll actually construct that full street name or whole address field. It'll fix all null field values in it. If it doesn't already exist, we'll create field indices there, and if this is the first time this hasn't been run before, the segment ID field will be set to -1, basically nullifying that field. The same thing is done for the streets as well, cleans, trims, formats all those fields in such a way that it can then go through and actually run a link process, which will basically analyze every single address point, associate that to the appropriate street segment that it belongs. It'll inherit that segment ID, so we know that those are related. It'll also populate the side of the street as well as the zip code match, and fully basically link those two data sets together so that we can analyze the relationship of those two data sets. And then finally have the option to create fishbones here, which is kind of a visual representation of where each address point would fall along the associated center line that's there. And then after wiring and cleaning everything up, then you have the ability to go in and run all these different process checks. And I think we're up over 22 or so checks, and of course we continue to add new checks that could either be an error or possible issues within your address string data. You do have some options here to go in and process.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
Chris, I am so sorry to cut you short, but our time is expended.
Okay.
Thank you, and to everyone, we will follow up. Perhaps we can get a little narrative, Chris, on the final points that you were going to make and send that out in a follow-up email. And we will also send out links for handouts and other webinars that have already gone out, and any follow-up questions, we will answer those individually. Reminder of ESRI's Federal User Conference in Washington, D.C., February 13th and 14th, and our conference, our annual conference in San Diego in July, beginning with our National Security Summit, July 8th through the 11th, and then our International User Conference. Thanks to everyone for joining. To our presenters, again, please accept my apology for cutting you off at the last moment, but let's respect the time of everyone involved, and thanks again, folks. Have a great day.